कंसचाणूरमर्दनं देवकी परमानन्दं कृष्णं वन्दे जगद्गुरुम्. So, at this crisis, when both the armies were absolutely ready for fight, all the preparations were over, Arjuna suddenly refuses to fight. Why? In the morning we saw that he wants to go and take sannyasa, live by begging in the forest, and he says that first of all, he says, let us go to the midst and see who all wants to fight with me. Then suddenly he breaks down and refuses to fight. He says that it will be far better if I live on begging rather than kill those who are my own. So now we have seen that what Arjuna was experiencing was not genuine renunciation, because in genuine renunciation, the feeling of I and mine, it reduces. But Arjuna's unwillingness to fight was based on this feeling of I and mine. That he always, again and again he says to Krishna, that how can I kill my own flesh and blood? So what was this then? If this was not genuine renunciation, what was this? So this is called, in Sanskrit, this is called Shmashan Vairagya. Shmashan means cremation ground or burial ground. So, what happens when we go to such places? Someone very near or dear dies. We see death at close quarters. We see the burning pyres in India. Here we see that the body is being lowered into the grave, dust to dust. All these we hear. So we are faced with the truth for at least some time, that nothing remains in this world. We all come here for 2 days, then strive and work and undergo all sorts of happiness, joy, sorrow, tension, depression, suppression, everything. Then empty-handed we go from the world. So we feel sad for some time. We see no meaning in this world. But after coming home, after a few days, we are our old selves again. So Sri Ramakrishna describes this type of vairagya which lasts only till we are in the cremation ground, not after that. So that is why it is called cremation vairagya or shmashan vairagya. So Sri Ramakrishna says, what happened once? A person had this kind of vairagya. He wrote a letter to his family. I am feeling great renunciation, I am renouncing the world, etc., etc. He went to Kashi or some places. Then after some days he wrote, please don't worry about me. I have found a job here. So Sri Ramakrishna says, this is a kind of, that is called Shmashan Vairagya, or it is also called Markat Vairagya. What is a Markat? Bandar, monkey. A Markat is a monkey. So what is the nature of the monkeys? One place they will be here, next second they will be somewhere else. So this kind of Vairagya is like a monkey, means it doesn't stay. It doesn't stay for long. Because it has not come from regular years and years of struggle, meditation, struggle, etc. So this is just a temporary feeling. So what it is like, Sri Ramakrishna says, even more graphic description. He says that, you people cook. So that tawa is there, what is it called in English? Skillet. So whatever it is, so if you make it hot and if you put some water, what will happen? Immediately it evaporates. So this vairagya is like that. It stays for a few minutes and evaporates. So this was what Arjuna was experiencing. And Krishna understood this. So what he said, again and again, to all the arguments of Arjuna, he only said one thing. Yudhyasva. Yuddha means fight. Yudhyasva means you have to fight. I won't listen to all that. I can see through you. I won't listen to all your arguments. You have to fight. So actually what was happening was Arjuna was just trying to avoid confronting a difficult situation. Now we are all faced with difficult situations in life. So it takes a lot of courage to confront that. Because sooner or later we have to. I mean, you cannot run away forever. But once you confront it and face it, then you may conquer it. At least there is a chance. So running away from a situation is no solution. That is why suicide is a great sin actually. So Sri Ramakrishna has said, committing suicide is a great sin because we were just trying to avoid a difficult situation. We can take it no more. So we try to end our life. But we forget that our life is not ours. So ending one's life is as good as ending another human being's life. So just like murder is a great sin, that is why it is a sin. People may think that, why should it be a sin? It's my life, I can take it. But our life is not only ours. Suppose a family member commits suicide, then he is causing grief to so many people in his family, so many dependents may be there. Each person is connected to someone else in this world. So running away is no option. That is why Swami Vivekananda has said, face the difficulties bravely. So he gives an incident from his own life. Once Swamiji, when he said this, what happened? He was in Kashi, Varanasi. So there's a temple, I've forgotten the name. I went and I was shown that temple where Swamiji had this experience. It is red colored, I've forgotten the name. So anyway, so there what happened, Swamiji was walking and suddenly a horde of monkeys went after him. Sometimes it happens for no reason. They attack you. So I was in Vrindavan for 2 years and there are a lot of monkeys. My God, they will drive you crazy. So what happened was in our rooms, on the doors, there are ventilators in India. There is one thing it just opens like that because it is a hot country. So generally nothing is put in the ventilators. But in Vrindavan, on the ventilators there was a grill because these people will climb through the ventilators into your room. And they are so clever. When we used to go for dining hall, etc., outside, so those who are with spectacles, they were told, you put your spectacles and put it in a pocket. Why? They will come and take your spectacles and with it, they will sit on top and dangle it like this. So if you give them something to eat, they will wait. If you say like this and I am coming and they will wait. Otherwise, if you say no, they will simply break it like this. They are terribly clever. And for people returning from temple and all, they are carrying this, you simply come from behind and absolutely 1 minute, it is gone. And sometimes they attack without reason. It happened to me also, but it was just a single one, so I was saved. So then we were taught that whenever you go with a stick. They are afraid of the stick. When they see it, they keep away. So these monkeys now went after Swamiji for no reason at all. And they are very big brutes. Impossible to tackle them. So Swamiji began to run. But how can he run faster than monkeys? So they were catching up. Then one monk was there. He said, face the brutes. Face them. You can't escape by running. So then Swamiji immediately turned. And he must have had a staff or something. He was a wandering sannyasi. As soon as he turned, the monkeys backed up. So Swamiji, from his own life, he showed us this great lesson. Then he said, always face the brutes. So Arjuna is being taught the same lesson by Shri Krishna, that Yudhyasva. You have to fight. Now, what is the connection with our life? With our life, this connection is there that when we turn to spiritual life, we hear many things. We have, oh, you are Brahman, all that. We have some great lecture we are attending. But when we come down to practical things, we find that even so small habit is so difficult to give up. Then we are faced with this situation. Oh, then leave it all. People then practice maybe for 6 months, 1 year. There's nothing there. Leave it. Oh, spiritual life is all nonsense. I've all tried that. But we have not tried sufficiently and for a long time. Why? Because it demands great sacrifice. That is the problem. And we don't want to let go because these things are very dear to our heart. So what we see in all these today's YouTube channel, this, that, any Babaji will tell, oh, I'll give you Samadhi in 5 minutes. Like we had gone to, when I was in Advaita Ashrama, we used to participate every year in a book fair. So our stall, Advaita Ashrama Purification Department, we used to go. So we saw a stall that one mother is there. You give her some money, the rate is mentioned, she will awaken your Kundalini Shakti. So this is what is going on. So naturally people will think, oh, easy money, like easy money, people want easy achievements. So they will go. Then when nothing will happen, they will be disappointed. So this is the thing. People are afraid. If you tell them that you have to give up something, we immediately back off. Nahi. We don't want to give up. We want to, one lady was there in America. Swamiji was, after a lecture of Swamiji, Swamiji himself has said. So one lady came and said, Swamiji, you talk about this renunciation, but I want to enjoy God in my diamonds, in my cars, in my luxuries, etc. So Swamiji said, okay madam, you keep on enjoying in God in all this, and once you are getting if you get some strong blows from the world, then you will realize. So problem is we don't realize without seeing the negative side of the world. But sooner or later it will come. Then what will you do? Without preparation it is very difficult to encounter those things. So sooner or later we have to encounter, today or tomorrow. Life is not all rosy and a walk in the park. Yeah, so many things happen, so many things can happen, so many things do happen. But when we read them in newspaper, television, we turn away. Because we know that these things happen only to others, they cannot happen to us. This is the belief we are carrying. So once we are faced with the truth, then how will we deal with it? So if we start facing the truth right now and encounter it, then we can conquer. Because Swami Vivekananda says, you have that power in you. But if you keep on running, one day it will catch you. One day those monkeys will catch you. Then where will you go? That is the thing. So, that is why Sri Krishna only says, Yudhyasva. Fight, fight, fight. This is not only on Arjuna's level on Kurukshetra, this is on our level also. Struggle, struggle, struggle for spiritual growth. That is the message. And that is applicable to everyone. So you may find it difficult, Sri Krishna says, but for your own good, for the good of the society, because if those Kauravas capture this kingdom, so just imagine what will the condition be. What will happen to society if those evil persons start ruling the country? So this also has to be seen. No? You are seeing the death of few of your relatives, and when they will massacre thousands, in the whole court, when all the Dhritarashtra, Bhishma, Dronacharya, they are all sitting, seniors. So this Duryodhana had the audacity to insult Draupadi when all were there. So if they become king, what will they do? No good person can live there in their kingdom. No, so for the good, not only for your good, because it is your dharma, for the good of the society, for the good of your country, you will have to fight. That is the Krishna's only message to Arjuna. So now we will enter the Kurukshetra, the field, the war zone, and we will see how Arjuna suddenly changed. So let us imagine in our mind's eye, that whole scene, let us imagine. It has been beautifully described by Swami Nikhilananda in his Gita. So I will just quote from there. It was indeed a wondrous sight. The best of India's manhood was there. Banners of various hues, there's pataka, they are called, all those flags of different armies and all that. So banners of various hues waved in the wind. The garments of the combatants were colorful and variegated. The sound of conches and drums were like a tempest. So in India, those before the war, this bugle was there, and the drums were beaten, to put that enthusiasm in the warriors. So the sound of conches and drums was like a tempest sweeping over the forest or a tidal wave in the ocean. That sound was like a tidal wave in the ocean. The trumpeting of elephants, the neighing of horses, the blare of the trumpets and the clash of cymbals created a tumult too great for human ears. The warriors had staked their lives to win victory for their respective sides. This was the situation, two armies facing. As the combatants stood poised, Arjuna asked Krishna to drive his chariot into the space between the armies. So you have seen this. What did Arjuna say? Senayor ubhayor madhye ratham sthapaya mechyuta. Hey Achyuta. Achyuta is Krishna's name. Take my ratha. Sthapaya means take my ratha where? Ubhayo senayor madhye. Ubhayo means both. In between both the armies, take my chariot. Why? Yavadeta niriksheham yodhu kamanavasthitan kairmaya sahayodhavyam asmin ranasamudyame yodsemana naveksheham yaetetra samagataha dhartarashtrasya durbuddhe yuddhe priyachikirshavaha. So draw up my chariot between the two armies that I may behold there those who are eager to fight and may know on the eve of battle with whom I must contend. I would observe those who are gathered here to fight, desiring on the battlefield the welfare of the evil-minded son of Dhritarashtra. So this is his spirit. Let me see who dares fight the Pandavas. And look at the language. Who are supporting this Duryodhana, the evil-minded son of Dhritarashtra? Let me see. That is the attitude, full of anger against those persons who have destroyed the country. So his determination to fight is evident here. But when he came and he saw, what did he see? He saw warriors who had staked their lives to win victory for their respective sides. In happier days, they had been friends, comrades, and playfellows. Now confronted each other youths who were brothers and elders who were venerated for their knowledge and wisdom. Bhishma Pitama, the great sage, Dronacharya, his teacher, Kripacharya, his teacher. The very flower of India's knighthood, to whom he was bound by 1,000 ties of love, respect, and affection. Bas. This is the problem. So, when duty calls, these worldly feelings enter. And what did he see? Acharyan, Matulan, Bhratrin, Putran, Pautran, Sakhins, Tatha, Shvashuran, Suridas, Chaiva, senayor ubhayorapi. He saw arrayed in both armies fathers and grandfathers. Bhishma Pitama, venerable grandfather of everybody. Maternal uncles and brothers. He had two maternal uncles, Shalya and Shakuni. They were on the other side. And brothers, his own brothers also. So we should remember that he was also worrying for them. They may also be killed, we don't know. Then sons. Lakshmana was the son of Duryodhana, Abhimanyu was his own son, and Abhimanyu was killed. And grandsons. Comrades and friends, fathers-in-law and teachers, Bhishma, Dronacharya, Kripacharya. Bas, as soon as he saw this, what happened? Tan samikshya sakaunteya sarvan bandhun avasthitan. Now see the term, bandhu. Just one moment ago he was telling these evil-minded persons who are supporting Duryodhana. In the next moment they become bandhu. So what happened? Kripaya paraya vishto vishidan idam abravit. He was overpowered by kripa, that is pity. So now comes the change. As soon as he saw his own flesh and blood standing before him, he experienced a terrible reaction. What happened? Vishidan. Vishidan means, it comes from Vishada, means sorrow. So sorrowing. One moment ago he was eager to fight. As soon as he saw all this, sons, brothers, uncles, grandfathers, friends, he is overcome by Vishada or sorrow. This is what happens. Why? This is the terrible power of moha or infatuation. This is what we experience every day and we call it love. This is a love. When we see our own persons, there is if you imagine that the feeling that mothers get when they come close to the sons or daughters, or there is always, if you note carefully, with joy there is always sorrow. Always, it cannot be otherwise. In relations which are based on attachment, it has to be there. Sometimes you see them weeping, or when they go away they are worrying, or if you really dive deep into our mind and examine what is happening to me, we will see. And immediately if you notice carefully, you will see that you have become weak. Immediately you will see that vigor has gone. You have become susceptible. Those emotions will overpower you. And this is what is happening to Arjuna. This is called the terrible power of infatuation and attachment. So then when that happens, we lose our sense of right and wrong. That is the thing. When we have this problem, is infatuation or moha or attachment produces weakness. As soon as we become weak, everything, all the minus things automatically come. Like we are here healthy and all. As soon as we become weak, what will happen? Body becomes weak. All the viruses, there are always some viruses in and around the atmosphere. If the body is strong, it can avoid. But as soon as the body becomes weak, what happens? They don't need to be invited. They come themselves. So here also, when the mind becomes weak, all the negative things automatically come. So, one of those things is what? We lose our sense of right and wrong. Genuinely, we lose our sense. So, this is what is happening to Arjuna right now. And another interesting thing, which I found in the same, I was discussing with someone that about the great saint commentaries on the Gita. So there also I found this very interesting thing he has told, such beautiful insights. See, the interesting thing to note is all those people were also relatives of Krishna. This we forget. What was the relation? Arjuna's mother Kunti was Krishna's aunt. Krishna's father was Vasudeva. Vasudev's sister was Kunti. And Kunti's son was Arjuna. So, Krishna's aunt's son. So, they were brothers. So, all the relatives of Arjuna were also relatives of Krishna. But Krishna was not lamenting. Krishna also felt, it is not that they had no emotion. And Krishna also venerated greatly Bhishma. We see in the Mahabharata. In fact, when Bhishma was lying on the bed of arrows, Krishna told Yudhishthira at the end of the war, go and learn from Bhishma. And then what spiritual advice Bhishma gave to Yudhishthira is known as the Shanti Parva of Mahabharata. So, not only were those people blood relatives of Krishna, but Krishna also greatly respected Dronacharya and Bhishma and all that. But he never lamented. He was not crying like Arjuna. Why? Didn't he have any emotion? Was he without emotion? If he did not have emotion, then why did he go to the Kaurava court and implore them, don't fight, the result will not be good. You just give 5 villages to Pandavas, he said. We don't want half the kingdom. 5 brothers, you give 5 villages, we are satisfied, we will go away, we don't want a war. This is what he said. He tried his utmost. But Duryodhana, what did he say? You all know. He said, I won't give as much ground as is covered by the pin of a needle, that point of a needle. That much also I will not give. So if Krishna had no emotion, why did he make so many attempts to stop the war? Of course he had emotions. But what was the difference between Krishna's emotion and Arjuna's emotion? Krishna's emotion did not influence his reason. This was the thing. His emotions were under control. So, emotions every one of us has to have. We cannot be emotionless puppets. But that emotion has to be purified. Blind emotion, unfortunately, under which 99% of the people are living, is no good. It does not lead to any good. Emotions have to be there, but they should be purified. If our emotion takes over our reason, takes over our rational thinking, then we are gone. Because basically, human beings are emotional. Very few people have reasoning power very strong. We are guided by our emotions. All of us, without exception. Maybe 1 in 100 million, maybe an exception. So if these emotions are not purified, they are not given the right direction, then they can make our life hell. They can create so much misery that it is extremely difficult to get out of that. Now see, talking about this, a very important word is in that verse in which these are such beautiful insights. When I was reading this, I was simply, my God, these saints have done so much. So this word you see, it is such a brilliant insight. He says, O Krishna, where you take my ratha, you take my chariot where? Senayor ubhayor madhye. Madhya is the word. Madhya means what? Madhya means middle. So Arjuna says that take my chariot in between the armies. That is called Madhya. So what is the thing? What is the message? I want to be a Madhyastha. Madhyastha means madhye, in between. Sthita. Sthita means who is stationed. That stha means this. So, like we had one President Maharaj Ji who was named Atmasthananda. What does it mean? One who is stha means sthita, established in what? In the Atman. So, Atmastha means established in the Atman. So, Madhyastha means what? Madhyastha means situated in the middle. Now, what does this mean? Geographically, it means situated at an equal distance. But actually, what does this mean? Actually, it means when we are completely impartial. When two sides are there, we are in the middle means what? We are not leaning to the left or to the right. We are completely impartial. It is such a brilliant insight. So when is a man in the middle? If he does not lean towards any of the sides. So in Bengali and Hindi, this is used in another word actually. This is a particular meaning is there. What happens is, in India it is still followed, because here it is easy. You go to if some quarrel is there, you go to a court and sue for $1 million and you will get the results maybe in 2 months or something. But in India it doesn't happen. By the time the results will come out, your grandchildren will see what has happened. So what do they do there generally? And of course courts, and they are not so popular there. Very few people have access to courts. So what happens is, suppose people on two sides have a quarrel. So what do? They appoint one madhyastha. Who is a madhyastha? Who will decide in favor of either of the two parties. Now, why is he called madhyastha? In between. Because they ensure that that person is not related to any of the parties. What happens? If he is related, he will not be madhyastha. He cannot be impartial. So this neutral person must be really neutral. He will not be related to either A or B. Then he can truly be madhyastha. That means he can truly be impartial. So because he is impartial, his judgment will be fair. So Arjuna is telling Krishna to take his chariot and be madhyastha, but actually the only person who was truly madhyastha was Krishna. He saw everything with the eye of reason. No emotion which will influence his reason. So Krishna is seeing this battle as what? Between dharma and adharma. And he has no doubts that he will support only dharma. But Arjuna is not madhyastha. Where, what is he? He is mohastha. Moha means attachment, delusion. So Arjuna is not situated in the middle because he is situated in the midst of this attachment. So where Krishna is seeing adharma, representatives of adharma, suddenly Arjuna is seeing his bandhu, his friends, his relatives. So see what difference this makes in the attitude. So because Arjuna is seeing those evildoers as mine, but as soon as this mine comes, all reason flies through the window. Then we don't remain impartial and our judgment becomes flawed naturally. So when suppose two teams are competing, soccer or football or cricket or anything. Now suppose on the opposite side there are two friends, very close friends, but they are competing on the opposite side. Now if one person sees this friend as just another player on the opposite side, then what will happen? No problem. He will compete with all his vigor, try to defeat the team because his loyalty is with his team. But if he sees not a player but his friend, then what will happen? So in soccer and all, suppose we tackle the ball, if he sees his player coming and tackling, or in ice hockey, if he sees his friend is coming for the puck, what will he do? He won't have the ability to resist. Because, oh, this is mine, he's my friend. This mine comes. Or if a judge is giving judgment, if against a youth he is giving judgment, a youth has done a terrible crime, so when judge hears it in his chamber, he says, oh, these young people don't know how to behave. He should be given a very strict punishment. If at this age he is not controlled, afterwards God knows what he will do, etc., etc. All this he makes remarks. Then when he goes in the court, he sees that that fellow is his son. Immediately, oh, he is a young boy. If you give him too harsh punishment, what will happen? His whole life will be ruined. Let us be lenient. Let us try to make him understand. Hard things don't work, All immediately, the whole argument will be changed. So, this is not duty. This is dereliction of duty. When under emotions, we run away from our duties. So, most of you know that generally surgeons are not allowed to operate on their relatives. Why? Don't they love their relatives? They should do better. If that was really love, they should do better. But no, if a person is asked to operate upon his wife, what will happen? His hand will shake most probably when he holds the knife. Because he is not seeing a patient, he is seeing my. Bas. When this my comes, reason escapes. One window my comes, the other window reason goes out. So mine, this feeling of mine in Arjuna led to moha or infatuation. And this infatuation invariably leads to shoka, sorrow. If you just examine all our worldly attachments, son, husband, wife, relatives, friend, everybody, we will see, if we imagine closely our minds, we will see there is an element of sadness. There has to be, you can't escape it. So Arjuna was completely overwhelmed and he became so deluded as if he had become blindfolded. He could see nothing. He was, afterwards we will see, he will see that his tears were so much that he could not see anything. This was the situation. So now Arjuna represents here, as we had discussed, Arjuna is not an ordinary person, he is a great devotee. He is an evolved human being. He hankers for spiritual truths and he needs spiritual guidance. He is a brave warrior as well as a devotee, but here he is confronted by an extremely difficult situation. He is seeing that his whole clan is being wiped out. I mean, anybody can be unnerved by that. It is not a joke. So, this difficult situation is playing havoc in his mind. He is being absolutely, what we say, he is being torn apart. On one side, his duty, on one side, his terrible attachments for his people. He had come to fight the evil Kauravas, but now, because of this attachment, he is giving various arguments to justify his inability to fight. He says he will incur sin by killing his near and dear ones. And of course, we have seen he wants to give up his swadharma, live by begging. But Krishna is not fooled. Arjuna has become a slave to his emotions. Shoka and moha, these again and again they occur in the Gita. In Shankaracharya's commentary, again and again they occur. So you have to remember this. Shoka, moha. Moha leads to shoka. Attachment leads to sorrow. And these are the causes of all the problems in the world. That is what Shankaracharya says. So, shoka and moha taints Arjuna's vision to such an extent that he is unable to think straight. So, what do we see? Tan samikshasa kaunteya sarvan bandhun avastitan kripaya paraya vishto. He was overcome with deep pity and sorrowfully said. We'll come to what he said. So, such being the situation, Sanjay means he was the one who was telling the Mahabharata to Dhritarashtra. Dhritarashtra, Vyasa came. He told Dhritarashtra that I will give you divine vision. From your palace only you can see whatever is happening. But Dhritarashtra said, no, I cannot stand seeing the killing of my near and dear ones. And he had no love for Pandavas. So by near and dear ones actually he meant Kauravas. So from this we can understand that he knew what was going to happen. He was not such an idiot that he did not know that Krishna, God himself, how can anybody compete with him? Still, this is Mohan. Still he did not tell Duryodhana to stop the war. So he said, no, I can't stand seeing that. Then that divine vision was given to Sanjay. Sanjay saw what was going on and he told Dhritarashtra. So Arjuna, whose discernment became overpowered, this is from the commentary of a great commentator, Madhusudana Saraswati, he was a great saint. So he says what had happened. Arjuna's discernment became overpowered due to contrary understanding called delusion. What is the delusion? That killing is a great sin. And also due to the mental confusion called grief, which is an obstacle to the understanding that this battle, although it was sanctioned by the scriptures, although it is meritorious, still Arjuna wanted to desist from engaging in. So what was his grief springing from? The idea of mine. I and mine. And then from there arose the great calamity. What? The desire to refrain from his own duty. Battle, for which he had previously come ready. He had come ready for battle. Didn't he know then whom he had to fight? So what did he say when he suddenly realized that they are his own kinsmen whom he is being asked to slaughter? What did he say? Let's see what did he say. Drishtvevam swajanam krishnam yuyutsum samupasthitam Sidanti mamagatrani mukham cha parishusyati Vepathuscha sharire me, my body is trembling. Roma harshascha jayate Gandivam sransate hastad. Gandiva, that bow, is slipping from my arms. Tvakchaiva paridayyate. Tvak is skin, my skin is burning. Na cha shaknomi avasthatum. Avasthatum, to stand. Na shaknomi, I can't stand. Bhramati vacha me mana, my mind is wandering. Nimittani cha pashyami viparitani keshava. O Krishna, at the sight of these my kinsmen assembled here eager to give me battle, my limbs fail. This is the Arjuna, hearing whose name people would tremble. My limbs fail and my mouth is parched. My body is shaking. My hair stands on end. The bow Gandiva slips from my hand and my skin is on fire. I cannot hold myself steady. My mind seems to whirl. Keshava, I see omens of evil. This is what has happened to the mighty warrior Krishna. So Arjuna is now fully controlled by his emotions and he surrenders to them, under which his bravery, his heroism, all of them now take a backstage. The greatest warrior on earth can't even hold his bow. Holding this, he had told, "Come, take me to the middle, I will see who dares to fight with me." He has become so weak that he can't even stand on his feet. This was the same person who has killed such terrible demons like Nivata Kavacha, and he had fought with Lord Shiva himself. Lord Shiva had come in disguise. Arjuna had fought with Lord Shiva. This was the Arjuna who says, "I cannot even hold my bow." So here a beautiful simile by the great saint Gyaneshwar. He has written a commentary on the Gita in Marathi that is called Gyaneshwari. So what had happened, he says, such a powerful person, this was the condition. So he says, just as an exorcist who chants the mantras wrongly and himself becomes possessed of the ghost. In India, they call someone to get rid of, by chanting some mantras to get rid of a ghost who has entered somebody. So he's a very powerful person, that exorcist. But if he comes and chants the wrong mantras, what can happen? That ghost can enter him. So here, Arjuna was so powerful. But what happened? Because of his uncontrolled emotions, that demon of attachment entered into him, and Shoka Moha all held him in their grasp. So now this bow, each word of the Gita is so important, you see. Now he says the bow Gandiva. Gandiva, it is mentioned. They could have just said bow, but they named the bow that is Gandiva. Why? Because it is a symbol of Arjuna's prowess and bravery. Behind the Gandiva there is a story. What? Once Agni, the god of fire, he wanted to devour a forest. Just stories, That forest name was Khandava Prastha. So Agni, that fire, had to devour the whole forest to get back his power and splendor. That is the story. So he enlisted, that fire enlisted the help of Krishna and Arjuna, because they were the greatest in the world at that time. So they helped the god of fire, and as a boon, as a prize, as a gift, Agni gave this bow, Gandiva, to Arjuna. And he also gave 2 quivers. They had put their arrows in quivers. So he gave 2 quivers which would never be finished. Any number of arrows Arjun could take, they were divine. They would immediately be filled with more arrows. Inexhaustible number of arrows Arjuna had. So that Gandiva was dreaded by everybody in the world. Because that powerful bow and in the hands of Arjuna. So even the gods were afraid. And this Arjuna says, "I cannot hold my bow." What is happening? Beautiful simile from Gyaneshwari, again I quote. He has compared it so brilliantly. It says, a honey bee ordinarily can pierce very hard substances, also like wood. But if it is caught inside a flower, when the petals close, it can't escape. If it can pierce hard substances also, why can't it pierce that flower and escape? Although flower is so soft. So the great hero Arjuna, what has happened? These emotions seem so soft. They are so tender. We think when we cry and we think we have become great saints. We have so much love. And we surrender before these emotions. So, such a wonderful comparison. That a bee, although it can penetrate hard substances like wood, when the petals close over it, it can't get out. So, this pity, kripa, which Arjuna is experiencing, is supposed to be a very tender emotion. But for Arjuna, it becomes as deadly as the petals are for the bee. When the petals close, bee dies. It cannot come out. Similarly, Arjuna is experiencing spiritual death under these tender emotions which he doesn't realize are the result of attachment only. So, such a wonderful comparison. So, this is not at all an exaggeration. We all know that uncontrolled emotions goaded by worldly attachments can simply wreck our minds and bodies. Sometimes the blow is so great that we cannot get over it through our whole life. People start swooning when they hear that somebody near and dear has gone. It is an evil, but it comes under such a disguise that we mistake it for something very great. That is the problem. Poison covered with honey coating. So, great saints tell us to recognize this, but we don't recognize. What does Sri Ramakrishna say in one place? In the Gospel it is there. He says, this will come as a blow to us, especially householders who have wives, children, etc. They will say, what is the master telling? So he says, a man's wife was sick. He nearly fainted. If he only had such yearning for God. So we will say how cruel the master is. A man's wife is sick, of course he will faint. What will the poor fellow do? But Sri Ramakrishna doesn't recommend that. He does not send this, oh, what great love for wife, etc. He says, if only he had such yearning for God. The emotions which are channelized because of attachment to his wife, children, friend, relatives, he should have given to God. So what he is thinking is great love is not love. It is attachment. And neither will it do the wife any good, nor will it do him any good. Because true love cannot come till there is attachment. And he says, men, his master says, Sri Ramakrishna says, men shed a jug full of tears for the sake of their children, for their wives, or for money. But who weeps for God? So, same thing he is telling. When we are weeping means what? Our emotions are connected with those things. Our emotions are connected with all these worldly things. And day and night, we are weeping for them. But our emotions are not being connected to the one to whom they should be connected, which is the only reality in the world. The reality we fail to realize that we love our wife, we love our children, we love our friends for what? Once the infinite spirit which is inside him goes away, we burn his or her body. So, what have we been loving all along? We have been loving all along the conscious principle which was inside him. That is nothing but God. But we are mixing it up. We see that conscious principle only in those who are I and mine feeling is there. We don't see it in everybody. So, this is being mixed up with Maya or with this mind and body complex. That is the thing. So then what does this mean? We say, then was the master very cruel-hearted? Did he never weep in his life? That is not what we find in the gospel. He had the most tender of hearts. Once Adarsen had brought a relative to the master. So there was musical kirtan and all going on. So after everything was over, he brought him and then told Sri Ramakrishna that he has lost his son recently. So then if master was cruel, what would he have said? Oh, this is all Maya. Don't worry about it. Go home and forget about it. He didn't say that. He said, isn't it only natural that you should feel grief for your son? Because he is as it were coming from your body. But while he showed sympathy, again, then he says, after that, what does he say? But these things for 2 days only. After this, he says, they're for 2 days only. The world is for 2 days only. People come, people go. So, one who is devoted to God, if these terrible things happen to him, he will not be destroyed like ordinary people. Because he is holding on to something which is true and eternal. These things will be there, but they will not wipe him off his feet. Everybody has to suffer. Swamiji did not weep. Mother did not weep. Ramakrishna did not weep. When Yoganandaji was the first disciple of Sri Ramakrishna to pass away. Very young. So Swami Vivekananda, when Yoganandaji passed away, Swami Vivekananda did not go to Thakur's temple in the Belur Math for 3 days. Then 4th day he came, just like an innocent boy. He said, I did not come to the temple because I was angry with the master for taking my brother away. But then he said, why should I think that what my will is there, that should happen? Why should I think that? It is all the master's will which is happening. So because he was such a great soul, that did not finish him off. He came back. These things happen. It is all the master's will. It is God's will. So it is not that we won't feel sad, we don't have emotion, not that. But being 100% governed by emotions, having no place for reason in our life, is generally how we spend our life. That should not happen. Because these things nobody can avoid. And the whole message of Vedanta, or the whole message of religion is that behind these things there is something which does not go away, which will never go away, which is not different from you. So treat these experiences in such a way that they also may guide you towards realizing that one eternal truth. So there is a difference in reaction between an ordinary person and a devotee when confronted by these situations. While as any loss on the worldly level completely shatters an ordinary person and completely makes him forget his duty, this does not happen to a spiritual person. So Arjuna was fighting a battle here. Our chance of being engaged in a war are very remote. We may not go to the war to fight somebody. But here what is happening? Here how should we take it upon us? How does it apply to us? That because of this attachment, Arjuna is forgetting his duty. So once what happened, of course I am going on and on. Once what this is a true incident I am telling. That lady is still alive. So theirs was a great devoted family. Every year they used to have Durga Puja in their own home, which I have attended. It was not far from Advaita Ashrama. Then suddenly I heard that they will not do puja in their home now. And that lady is refusing to meet anybody, etc., etc. So what happened? What had happened was her husband was a very high diabetic patient and didn't have much control. So he was admitted to Seva Pratishthan. Seva Pratishthan is a hospital run by Ramakrishna Mission. It is our hospital in Calcutta, very big hospital. So he was admitted there. Unfortunately, he died. He was not a very young person. He died. That lady became completely shattered. And he said, I sent him to Thakur, and Thakur took him away. So, because of that, she stopped doing puja, stopped meeting everybody. She became, in a hole. She put herself. So, what is the gain from that? Rest of her life, how will she spend? She'll keep on blaming God. So this is what happens when emotions overpower us completely. We lose all sorts of rationality. So here actually is depicted how can we relate to ourselves, that we also should not forget our duties. What is our duty? Our main duty is to realize God, to get our spiritual progress. So these calamities may befall us, near and dear ones may pass away. But for that we should not become so dejected, so sad that we forget what is the true goal of life. So what Sri Ramakrishna said may sound a little harsh, but he says this to make us understand how dreadful this attachment is. How dreadful moha is. Because moha is just another name of selfishness. And this does not benefit anybody. We don't realize this. So-called love. This love not only degrades us, but if you are attached to some person with that love, it also degrades that person. We are also causing harm to that person. We don't realize. If we are overly protective, suppose, always thinking about one person, we think that it's great love. But when we go away, if we die, what will happen? If we are overly protective, that person will not be able to stand on his own feet. Son, daughter, or whoever it may be. So a lot of things have to be considered here, which we never even stop to think. We are so blinded. Like everybody, we are also leading our lives. Same thing. I mean, I still find it amazing. If you ask a person who is a married person, if you ask him, why did you marry? How many persons can give a rational reply to this? How many persons have even thought about this? This never ceases to surprises me. So going blindly in this life's journey, and we are so careful about dollars and cents. My God, 5 cents here and there on the credit card statement will go straight to the bank, and if necessary, we will fight for 10 days to get those back. But here, about one of the most important decisions of life, we don't know why we are doing it. Who really thinks about it? So this is how we are. That is why the saints and Jesus come and tell us that Uttishta Jagrata, wake up, arise, awake. Swamiji has said. First awake from the sleep, going about blindly throughout your life. Awake from this delusion and take the right decisions based on a rational basis. Think carefully before you do something. Wait properly. That is why study of philosophy is very important. All those philosophical doctrines may not be important for us, but the way they think, that rationality, it is superb. And when our mind is trained we can apply that to the daily activities also. That is the training which the mind gives. Actually, Swami Vivekananda says in one place that only two subjects are most important for studying. One is philosophy and one is psychology. That influences our lives. Technical things good for earning a living, but how does it influence our thinking? Not at all. They don't have any link with our practical life. So anyway, I'm diverting too much, and it's already, I've already talked for 1 hour, more than 1 hour. So now, let us stop this discussion at least. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.